Hey everyone, Casual Console Gamer here with another review. Ghostrunner 2, developed by One More Level and published by 505 Games, is available on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation 5. Released in October of 2023, you can pick it up for around $40 new, but it does go on sale for around $25 Canadian, which is about $20 US. I played Ghostrunner 2 on the PlayStation 5, and it took me about 10 hours to beat. That's without getting a lot of the collectibles or messing around with the side content, like the RogueRunner.exe side missions.
The attack started about 20 minutes ago. The reactor team managed to contact us before they went down, but there's no way our reinforcements can beat the hammers to the central chamber. Except for you. Report once you're in position.
Here's the too long didn't watch. Ghostrunner 2 is hard. This is a game about trial and error, and you're going to die a lot, restarting from the checkpoints over and over again as you try to run through a difficult traversal section or take down a group of enemies. Ghostrunner 2 is a first-person action platformer where you're going to use your sword and your quick movements to slice and dice your way through enemies and hazardous traversal areas. What makes this game so hard is that while everything you fight dies with one hit, excluding bosses, so do you. So one hit from an enemy, or one stumble from a platform, or one misstep during a wall run sends you back to the checkpoint to try again. This is a game about pressing the proper button at the proper time, inputting a complicated string of commands to move your character in a precise way to get through the levels as quickly and efficiently as possible. I died at least 500 times before I beat this game, but each death was a learning experience. Like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, you repeat the same areas or encounters over and over again, never truly dying until you beat it. Ghostrunner 2 is about speed. It's about assessing the placement of enemies and the environment and picking the best way through it. It's a perfect game if you enjoy a challenge, and clocking in at only 9 or 10 hours to beat is worth picking up. Just be aware that it's hard, and there will be times you're going to be frustrated and want to quit. That's perfectly fine. I turned the game off dozens of times in frustration, just to pick it up later to try again. If you stick with it, you'll find a fun and engaging game with quick combat, clever puzzles, and a relatively polished product. There are a few things that could have been cut, like an open world section that slows down the pace of the narrative, and a story that isn't very memorable. But when the credits roll and you set your controller down, you feel that sense of pride and accomplishment finishing something that kicked your ass for 10 hours straight.
Yeah?
I won't be back today.
Alright, graphically, I'm going to separate Ghostrunner 2 into two halves. The first half looks really good. The game is set in this post-apocalyptic wasteland where the Tower of Dharma is the only refuge left for humanity. There's a cyberpunk aesthetic that runs through everything. It's dingy and dirty, and reminds me primarily of Blade Runner, which I feel that the developers took a lot of their inspiration from. The visuals are good, and the smallish environments means that the game runs reasonably well on performance mode. I didn't have any technical issues, aside from a few times where my character would get trapped on objects below the level, requiring me to restart the checkpoint manually instead of the automatic respawn at death. But the second half of the game takes place outside the tower, and this is where the game does have a few problems. There are a few really good virtual set pieces in this wasteland, but most of the map is this dirty, brown, boring mess that maybe could have been completely cut from the game. Overall, most of the game looks and runs great. Just be aware that this is a AA game and it shows.
Master, the Ashura are here to serve you.
What is going on?
We came back for you.
The tyrant is long gone, Mitra.
Dharma is weak now.
What? How much time has passed?
It's not safe here, Master. Let's go.
Hey, you! Lay down your weapons, now!
Alright, let's talk about the story. Full disclosure, I went into this game completely blind. I didn't play the first Ghostrunner, and I didn't look at any of the trailers or gameplay before picking this game up. That means my only connection to the story is this brief recap at the start that explains what happened in the first game. A quick recap, The Earth is in ruins and the tower is the last refuge of humanity. There's obviously a lot of classism going on, people on top versus people on the bottom. You're a Ghostrunner, a killer robot cyborg with a sword that kills and keeps the peace depending on how the tower creator wants to use you. The first game had you fighting against the people in charge of the tower, while Ghostrunner 2 has you returning as Jack, one of the last Ghostrunners. With the people in charge of the tower dead, there's a lot of gangs vying for control of the limited resources remaining. You work for the Climbers, the group that rebuilt you and are trying to reinstall some sort of order to the tower. While you're doing all that, you run into the Asura. They're the first Ghostrunners, and they're looking to destroy the entire tower. That's pretty much it without spoiling anything. The story isn't fantastic, but there's enough there that it does keep it interesting. The recap you get at the beginning does a good enough job, and the story is pretty simple, so you don't have to have played the first game to really understand what's going on. Bad people want to do bad things, go kill them with your sword.
Time for your ninja rope to shine.
My what?
You know, the grappling hook. Gun. Implant.
It's called Gap Jammer.
That's the one, yeah.
So how is Jack the Ghostrunner going to stop the bad people? With a sword. They may have guns and energy beams that cut through everything in sight, but you have a sword and the ability to run fast, and you run really fast. The whole point of the game is to get through the levels as quickly as possible with as few deaths as you can manage. There isn't anything like lives, you just restart at the checkpoint. Let me tell you, Ghostrunner 2 is hard. This is the sort of game that someone somewhere had the bright idea to make after they beat Dark Souls as a level 1 wretch naked with a club and thought that was too easy. Ghostrunner 2 reminds me of an old NES game, not in the looks of the gameplay, but with its intention. NES games were generally very short due to the technical limitations of the time, so in order to make the play longer, they made the levels harder. NES games required skill, memorization of the levels, and precise controls in order to beat them. Ghostrunner 2 has that same requirement. The timing of a jump, the throwing of a shuriken to hit a switch, the timely dodge of a projectile or a barrier while you're riding down a rail. Everything you do has to be precise or perfect, or you're going to end up respawning at a checkpoint. Thankfully, these checkpoints are fairly frequent, so you don't have to lose too much progress. It's a concession that the developers made based on how often you're going to fail and die. There are a few times when a traversal section is pretty long, and it's at these times that I felt like giving up. The bosses are super tough enemies that not only can take a lot of hits, but the boss combat encounters are often broken up with more puzzle solving or traversal sections. Thankfully, the bosses have checkpoints as well, allowing you to whittle them down in bits and pieces. If I had to complete a boss from full health all the way down to death without a checkpoint, there's no way I would have done it. You're gonna die a lot in Ghostrunner 2. I died at least 500 times in this game, and I know that because after each level, they give you the time it took you to beat it and the number of times you died. There's a score, and it's a way of challenging yourself. Maybe you want to replay that level to be faster and more efficient, or limit the amount of times you died. Although for me, as a casual console gamer, I just wanted to beat the game, so I threw myself into it, dying and respawning, until I finally killed the last boss and the credits rolled. To say I felt a sense of accomplishment is an understatement. When I beat Ghostrunner 2, I yelled loud in triumph and gave my TV a 2-finger salute. So to go along with the fighting and the running, you have skills that are unlocked through your playthrough. A shuriken that kills or stuns enemies, a shadow clone that's going to draw attention while you are cloaked and you can sneak around, a tempest ability that's kind of like a force push. You can enhance these abilities through an RPG mechanic called the motherboard. You can assign certain perks, limited by the XP you gain through levels and collectibles you found during your playthrough. The perks aren't going to make you an overpowered killing machine, you're still going to die a lot. Instead of making you invincible, they maybe let you dash further, using less stamina, or give you invulnerability to enemy fire while you dash. One perk lets you block lasers with your sword, which is useful until it pushes you off a cliff. There is a lot to unlock and experiment. You can also find cosmetics for your sword, your gloves, and your motorcycle. Yes, you ride a motorcycle in this game, and it's pretty good. Although it does lead to one of the major complaints I have with the game. At around the halfway point, you're going to leave the tower on your motorcycle, and there's some really cool levels that have you speeding down the exterior of the tower or outpacing this giant killer robot. They're really excellent set pieces. Unfortunately, wedged in the middle of this is an open world section that has you visiting 3 towers in a boring overworld to unlock a gate. It did remind me strongly of that part in Half-Life 2 where you're on an airboat and you're racing through tunnels and occasionally stopping to fight enemies and open gates. But in Ghostrunner 2, it goes on for far too long, far too open, and especially since you don't have a map, it really drags down the flow of the narrative. Its inclusion feels wrong when the entirety of the game is this fast-paced, linear adventure that suddenly turns into an open world follow the marker kind of game. It doesn't help that the motorcycle and the driving is really designed for linear, crafted spaces and just doesn't feel good good in this part of the game. If you get to this section and you're immediately turned off by it, don't worry, it's only about 2 hours of the game. Just power your way through it. The music in Ghostrunner 2 is excellent. It's a mix of techno beats that fits the setting really well. It's too bad that the voice acting isn't nearly as good. It's not bad at all, but it doesn't do anything for the characters. You don't meet very many people in the game, and the few people you do meet are as robotic as the cyborgs you're fighting. Which brings me to my conclusion. Ghostrunner 2 is pretty good, provided you're looking for a game that is super challenging in a sometimes frustrating way. You're going to need to engage with its systems and combat in a way the game wants you to, rather than using a variety of different approaches. At 9 to 10 hours, it's a good length, and I would recommend you pick up Ghostrunner 2 on sale, which it frequently does. At the time of writing this review in March of 2024, it's on sale right now at Steam for $20 US, down from the regular price of $40 US. Just don't let all the deaths get you down. Get up, respawn, try again. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe for more content.